Either of you want a cameo in the video?
No.
Come on, make something? No? No?
I mean, like, farming-wise, because I haven't really figured out a good way to call, like, LLCs. And so I'm just going to start mailing letters to them. Expires, that is.
Because you can go to the Secretary of State that the LLC is registered, find out the owner's name and address,
Oh,
and then get their number that way.
okay.
All right, we ready? All right. Well, good evening, everybody. I'm John Robinson, Mathers Realty, and tonight we're going to be talking about farming a neighborhood. And when you have a neighborhood that you want to hit and that you want to farm, what are some ways to try to do that to hopefully try to get some listings in the neighborhood? Because statistically, whenever a house sells in a neighborhood, within 7 days of that house closing, another house is going to go up on the market. So with that continuously happening in your neighborhoods, how do we try to get in front of those sellers and hopefully get them to call us so we can list it for them? All right, so we'll start with a neighborhood. So you want to pick a neighborhood that either you live in, you know, or that may be close to you, because the neighborhood that you're going to farm, you're going to obviously be doing a lot of research on it. You're going to be going to it. You're going to be meeting the neighbors. You're going to be talking to the people. So you want to find a neighborhood that you feel will be good and comfortable for you to work. How you determine those is you can either find the neighborhood you live in, or if you want to have an in into a neighborhood, like an example of a listing that's already in that neighborhood, we can find a listing that either the company has active right now or just recently closed on it. And then we can ask whoever that listing agent was, do they mind if you were to target that neighborhood, market that neighborhood, and hopefully try to find more listings in that neighborhood. So we'll start with that one if there's already a listing that the company has or just closed on in the neighborhood, and then we'll move on to different ways to find other neighborhoods. But this one, so if we have a listing that we already have as a company in that neighborhood, you know that means that you are one of the quote-unquote listing agents since the company holds the listing. So you can market that as, you know, you are with the listing firm and that you are trying to market that neighborhood and try to find other sellers. So depending on the stage of the house, if you catch it early in the market would be better, because now you can farm the neighborhood with just listed. And then once it goes under contract, you can farm the neighborhood with under contract. Once it closes, then you can farm the neighborhood as just sold. So now there's 3 easy ends to that neighborhood from one listing that we may already hold. Now, how would you hit the neighborhood with those 3 advertisements? You can either make flyers and pass them out, put them in the mailboxes. You can go door knocking and let the neighbors know, here's what's going on in your neighborhood. Just want to keep you abreast as to what's happening in your neighborhood with home values, with home sales. So that way you have something to give them a little information about, to give you a step into hopefully making conversations with them. Now the flyers, a lot of agents will ask, what should we put on a flyer? Well, again, that also depends on what stage you're marketing this neighborhood. If you're marketing the neighborhood with just sold, how I have done it in the past is I will have a just sold on the top. I'll have 2 or 3 pictures of the house, one of the front, and then 1 or 2 of either the kitchen, a bathroom, something that is wow about that house, that's really nice. And then a little information about the house, square footage, number of bedrooms, bathrooms, price, and of course address. And then I will have all of my contact information at the bottom, my picture, my company name, my phone number, my email address. And then I always put a little phrase in there. If you're ever thinking about selling, please contact me with an opportunity for a free market analysis on your home. So that way I let people know that they read my flyer, oh, if you're thinking about selling, please call me. So now we have our flyer. Now we want to pass it out. We can either, again, go knock on the doors to pass it out to all the neighbors, or we can hang it at the door or put it in the mailbox. For me personally, I've always found you get the best return with either knocking on the door and trying to talk to the people or putting the flyer on the door. Even if you don't want to talk to the people and knock on the door, if you leave the flyer on the door, I have found that more people tend to pick up your flyer and actually look at it and read it than if it's in the mailbox. A lot of times when it's in the mailbox, people are just going to see that it's some type of advertisement and trash it. If you put it on their front door, they have to pick it up, remove it, and I feel that people are more inclined to open it up and at least see what it says. And that's the whole goal, is we want to get people to read the flyer. We know not everybody's going to sell their house soon, but if we can at least get them to read it, then they can start to put you and your name and your company and your face together as they receive more and more publications from you throughout a time span. Now, this process works very well because there has been numerous times where I had a listing in a neighborhood and then farmed it like we're talking about and ended up selling multiple homes in that same neighborhood from these communications. For me, I did mostly door knocking. I went and knocked on the doors and talked to as many people as I could, but if they weren't home, I left the flyer at the front door. But the ones that were home, a lot of people are like, I don't want to buy anything. That's a big objection that people give you as soon as they open the door. What are you selling? I'm not buying. Well, I'm not selling anything. I'm actually just here to let you know about what's going on in your neighborhood. A house just went on the market, a house just went under contract, a house just sold, or 2 houses just sold, whatever. I'm just giving you some information as a homeowner in this neighborhood so you can stay abreast as to what's going on in your neighborhood. What homes are selling, how much are they selling for, so you as a homeowner can kind of get an idea of what your home possibly might be worth in case you've ever thought about selling or refinancing. Just if you have any questions about either of those, I would love to schedule a time to come back and talk with you and see what you're thinking and what I can help you with. Now, when you may not always have enough to say all of that, but when you at least tell somebody that I'm not here selling anything, I just have some information to give you about homes in your neighborhood, majority of people then will actually let you say something and they will listen to you because they understand now that you're not trying to push them to sell them something. Even though at the end of the day, we really might be trying to sell ourselves so they can hire us to help them with their real estate needs. But at that given moment, we're really just trying to get that flyer in front of them, get our face in front of them, and introduce ourselves. Now, with any of this, you know, this would be a great time when you would wear your name tag that you have. That way it shows your name and who you're with when you go to knock on doors. You always want to introduce yourself as, I am John Robinson with Mathers Realty. You know, you have to acknowledge that you are an agent. And your flyers, of course, all have to have the company logo and name, and then your phone number and your picture if you want. But the company logo and name has to be equal or bigger than your name and photo. Just put that out there to make sure we all are compliant with the commission. So now, back to the farming in the neighborhood. Usually it takes a person 3 to 4 times of either talking to you, receiving your flyer, or something from you before you and your name and your face start to stick into people's minds. So if you're going to farm a neighborhood, you're going to need to do this multiple times for multiple months. The longer you do it, it's only going to benefit you because more and more people are going to get to know you. One of the neighborhoods that I did a couple years back, that I sold 7 homes in that neighborhood, almost probably 60 to 70% of the neighbors all knew who I was. They would say, oh, here comes John again. And it got to a point where a lot of the neighbors knew me and I knew them. So that's how I was able to make a decent living for that year off of that one neighborhood. But that also, I hit that neighborhood 2 times a month for probably 7 to 9 months for that whole time span. So when you find a neighborhood, you need to stick with it. I can't stress that enough. Too many agents will hit a neighborhood, pass out flyers one time, and then wonder why they're not getting anything. Now, you very well could get something off that one time, but if the person is like an average person and it takes them to see you 3 or 4 times before they actually call you with anything, you are nowhere near that. You're only 25% of the way through. So you need to keep going. If you live in a neighborhood, that is a great in for you to get in with that neighborhood, because you can say you are the neighborhood specialist, you live in the neighborhood, and a benefit for that is if you do list a house in the neighborhood and there is someone that wants to look at it, there is something that you need to go check on, anything, you can let the seller know, if I ever have to come to this listing for anything, I can be here in 30 seconds because I live right down the street. You know, why would you want to hire an agent who lives 20 minutes away when you can hire me that I live right down the street? So working your neighborhood is a great way, and you don't have to have a listing yet to do that. Your in there is, I'm your neighbor. Let's keep everything in the neighborhood. You know, I'm going to do my best to get the most sold for your home, because if your home sells for a higher value, that in turn increases my home's value. So I also have reasons to make sure that the house values stay up, because I want my house value to stay up. So that is another great one. Work your neighborhood that you live in. So how would you make a flyer for that one? If you're doing that, you know, neighborhood specialist, your neighbor, something that relates to the fact that you live in the neighborhood. You know, you want to make it be known that you are farming the neighborhood that you live in. So that way, when those neighbors read that letter or that flyer, or they talk to you, you know, they already feel a little bit more comfortable because they know you live in the neighborhood. So that can ease some, some tension. Apprehension. There we go. Thank you. Can ease some apprehension that people may have when you're trying to talk to them about possibly buying or selling a home in the neighborhood. Now, while you're door knocking or passing out flyers, you're going to run into people who don't own the home, tenants, because almost every neighborhood is going to have some people that rent. So when that's the case, you know, have you ever thought about buying? You know, does your landlord ever think about selling the home? Would you want to live in this neighborhood? How do you like the neighborhood? You know, because of what rents are at right now, you can a lot of times get a mortgage, and your mortgage payment can be equal to or sometimes even less than what the rent they may be paying is. So if they can qualify for a loan, there's never a better time to buy than now. So you want to ask those tenants, you know, have you ever thought about buying? A lot of them may say, well, no, I haven't. Well, I understand that. But would you like to maybe schedule a time so we can sit down and talk about it, just so at least I can give you some options and some information about it. So that way, if you ever do decide, at least now you'll have a little bit of information about it, so you can hopefully make a better decision to whatever may suit you in your life. So you want to be prepared to either meet a homeowner or a tenant, and depending on the situation, depends on, you know, how the conversation goes. Because tenants, a lot of times tenants end up buying one day, because especially younger people, they may not be ready or financially stable to buy when they move into a rental property. But after they've been there for a number of years, started to build up some financial freedom and some money, they may be ready to buy. So you want to make sure you're prepared for that conversation as well. Now, let's look at other ways to find the neighborhood that you want to try to farm. We've talked about the one that you live in, and we've talked about one that the company already has a listing in. Now, if there's a neighborhood that you live near, that may be one. Or if you have a neighborhood that a family member lives in, or a neighborhood you used to live in. Those can all be great options, and we can try to figure out a way to target them so you can get your in with them. But the first thing you want to do is find that neighborhood that suits and fits you. So if you find one that, say, you've always liked this neighborhood, or you like the price point of this neighborhood, or you like the location of it, ask me or your manager about it, and we can find a way to give you an in so you can try to find an in to that neighborhood. Now, when you're passing out information about other homes that have sold in the neighborhood, you can put on your flyer all the homes that have sold, all the homes that are under contract, even if they're not listed or sold by Mathers Realty. You can, but you have to put a disclaimer on there that either these properties were listed by such and such firm, or this information was derived from the Canopy MLS. So as long as you put some type of disclaimer in there, or not disclaimer, but like information stating that these are not your listings or our company's listings, then you are approved to be able to use those other listings in the neighborhood. Because if you're targeting a neighborhood that you sold a listing in and 3 other houses closed all around the same value, you may want to put out a flyer that says, these 4 homes just recently sold in your neighborhood. Look at all the values of the homes, and then you just make sure you put in there where you got those other listings from. But that way, you're also showing homeowners, oh wow, 4 homes have sold, my neighborhood must be hot right now. If I've thought about selling, now may be the time to jump on the bandwagon and get my house on the market. Also, let's talk about a little research you want to do when you farm a neighborhood. When you decide to farm a neighborhood, you need to know what houses have sold, what houses are active, what houses are under contract. Because when you go talk to a neighbor and the neighbor says, oh, well, did you see the house on Smith Street that just sold? You need to know that that house on Smith Street just sold. Because if you're trying to be the neighborhood specialist and they ask you about a house and you don't know about that house, then they're not going to think you're very special right now. So you just want to make sure you take your time and diligence to learn about the neighborhood before you go out there. You don't have to know everything about the neighborhood, but you need to know what has sold, what is active, what is under contract. And it's also good to kind of know about how many homes are in the neighborhood. So that way, if you've had 10 homes sell in the past 4 months and there's only 50 homes in the neighborhood, then you know that that's 10 out of 50. That's 20% of the homes in the whole neighborhood have just sold in the past 6 months. You may want to find a neighborhood that has more homes and maybe not such high percentage of ones that have sold. Or if you still want to market that neighborhood, then you want to find out why are so many people moving. Because that could be something that could be your insight. An example might be the home values were at $300,000 4 years ago. Now the home values in the neighborhood are at $550,000, and neighbors and people in the neighborhood are just moving because they all want to capture that equity that they've built up. So if that's the case, are people moving out and selling because the home values have gone up so drastically? If so, now you want to let the other neighbors know, do you know where your home values are? The home values in this neighborhood have gone up 15% in the past year and a half, or whatever the case may be. That can entice people to seriously think about, well, do I want to try to sell now and pull that money out? So these little bits of information that you can find and research on can only help you. Because I can promise you there's a lot of agents who will go out there and hit a neighborhood and they haven't done all of this research. And if they get called out on it and don't know things like this, it's not going to help their case to try to get sellers. And now if that agent just talked to a seller, now you come in and talk to a seller, and you know all of this information. You know what the percentage of the home values have increased over the past year, year and a half, whatever it may be. All the homes that have sold, all the homes that are under contract, all the ones that are active. Now, who is that neighbor going to think is the neighborhood specialist? You, because you've taken the time to learn it and get to know it. So now once you do that, now you know you have the knowledge to back up whatever you're trying to say and get to these people. So the biggest thing you want to take out of this is doing that research, getting the information down, learn the neighborhood, and consistency. Keep hitting that neighborhood. Keep going after them. The more and more that you go after them, the more and more that you make an appearance in the neighborhood, you're going to get to be known in the neighborhood. Word's going to travel around the neighborhood. You know, oh, on next door, did you see the agent from Mathers Realty was coming around the neighborhood with new flyers? This guy is, or lady is diligent about hitting our neighborhood. You know, that can be all it takes to get a listing in that neighborhood, because the neighbors start talking. Oh yeah, I saw them again. You know, he obviously, or she obviously really wants to help us. We know them from the times we've talked to them or the publications, the flyers that we've received from them. If I want to sell my house and I already don't have an agent that I'm tied to, they're probably going to call you, because you have been in front of them for months. You have given them information. You've been nice, polite, all that, everything they're looking for, and now you've hit them enough times that they know you and remember you. Now, we'll talk a little bit about if you decide to go door knocking. What time of the day?
Go ahead, I got a question. That's all.
Oh, we have a question.
Okay, you mentioned research.
Yes.
And it's like, what kind of research do you do when it comes to studying the neighborhood?
All right, question was research. What type of research do you do when studying a neighborhood? So the biggest type of research, first thing I'll do is put the neighborhood in the MLS and pull up all of the actives, under contracts, closed, expireds, and withdrawns for at least the past 2 years. So I can see what the values have done over the past 2 years. I can see if they started around 300 2 years ago, now they're at 400 or whatever it may be. But also if I see that there is 12 expireds and withdrawns that still never sold, now those are ones I definitely want to go talk to. I can make a list of those. But now I'm starting to familiarize myself with which homes are selling, what are those homes selling for, how many of those homes are selling, how many are not selling, how many are under contract, and how many are active. Now once I have that whole list, now I'm going to look at the ones that have actually sold and look at the information about those. What did they originally list for? What did they sell for? You know, I want to see, did all the homes sell at or above list price? Did all the homes start high and sell lower? Did they all, what was days on market? You know, did the homes sell in a week? Did they sell in 45 days? Did they sell in 90 days? So now I can kind of get an idea of all the homes that have sold in 2 years. I can look at the days on market. I can look at the pictures and the information about the house, the list price and the close price, and start to put together an idea of what is selling, why they're selling, when they're selling, and how much they're selling for. You know, because if you have 5 homes that were listed at 600 and everything else in the neighborhood is selling at 550, well, that will tell us that the neighborhood is like a 550 neighborhood, and those ones that were listed at 600, if they did sell, did they sell closer to 550? Or what? What was the case? Because you're going to run into a lot of situations where neighbors will say, oh, that house, you know, sold for $700,000, even though it may have been listed for $700,000, they may not know what it closed for. They just think that, oh, well, if that's what it was listed for and it sold, that's probably what it sold for. So you want to know that. You want to know those things. Because things like that, those neighbors are going to ask you. Someone who is interested in selling, someone who knows what's going on in their neighborhood, they're going to ask you these questions. And they may have false information. So you want to have the right information to provide them so you can also educate them. Now, once I have all that information, now I also want to know what the schools are, because if, say you have someone who's thinking about going into that neighborhood, if you're going to be that neighborhood specialty person, you need to know what the schools are in case someone asks you. What are the schools? Elementary, middle, and high. After that, you kind of want to look at, you may have a question about this a fair amount of time, is what is the property taxes in the neighborhood of the average home? Because that may be a reason people may move. They may say, well, my property taxes went up $7,000 last year. I can't afford that, or I don't want to afford that. So if you go knock on a door or send out a flyer and someone calls you and they said, oh, I'm thinking about selling my house because my taxes went up. Oh, I totally understand that. I do know that the homes in your neighborhood went up like $6,000 last year. Now, you've already shown them that you know exactly what you're talking about because you've done that research. You know what the taxes are. Other information you may want to research about a neighborhood would be, does that neighborhood have any amenities? If they do, you definitely want to know that. And where are they? There are some neighborhoods that have a playground and a pool that may actually on the map look like it's in the neighborhood next door, but they may have access to it in this neighborhood. So you want to know that. What amenities does the neighborhood have? Do they have walking trails? Do they have clubhouse? Do they have a pool? Do they have a playground? What do they have? And if they have those things, then we know they're probably going to have what? An HOA. So we want to know about the HOA. How much is the HOA dues? Are they monthly, quarterly, yearly? What are they and how much are they? We want to know all of that. So that way you can say now you are a neighborhood specialist because you know everything about that neighborhood. So those are the main things that I'm going to research for and pull up and get to know before I really start targeting a neighborhood. Because those are things you want to know and be able to talk about if you speak to someone in that neighborhood. Thank you for that question.
Thank you for the answer.
All right. Where were we about to go to?
You said about knocking on doors.
Yes, knocking on doors. Thank you. And so what people ask me all the time, what do you wear? When would you want to go? During the week, during the weekend, morning, lunchtime, evening? When would you want to go and what would you want to wear? So with me personally and my experience, I have found that when I go, I'm going to be wearing obviously something very comfortable, but I'm going to look semi-casual when I go. So I may wear just a collared shirt and jeans or a collared shirt and khakis. I'm not going to wear a dress shirt. I'm not going to wear a tie. I'm not going to wear slacks. I'm not going to wear dress shoes. I'm going to wear tennis shoes and something similar to what I have on right now, because I've found that if you dress too nice, people are not going to answer the door because they know you're either a salesman or possibly someone from a religion trying to get information out. So, and then if you go in like a tank top and shorts, then you just kind of look like a bum. They're not going to probably talk to you either way. So you want to look inviting. You want to look like a normal, quote unquote, person, even though what you wear, does that really make you normal? So that's what I've found. I've found if I wear something like that, people are like, oh, I answered the door because I could tell you weren't selling something because you're not in a suit. I've found that it works. And people feel a lot of times more comfortable when you're dressed like they are on a normal casual day. Now, what day of the week, what time of the day? I have done weekends, I have done weekdays, I've done the morning, I've done lunchtime, and I've done the afternoon. I have found the percentage of people that open up the door is about the same on any day of the week or any time. Because in today's world, a lot of people work from home, a lot of people work evenings, people work during the day, people work during the week, people work during the weekend. Like anything, there's not a right time you're going to find everybody home, but I've found that the same percentage of doors get opened no matter when you go. So you want to find a time that works for you. And as long as you keep going, you will find those people will answer the doors, and that percentage of people you talk to will grow as you start to hit that neighborhood more. Now, if you do continue to door knock a neighborhood, look at what day you're going, what time you're going, and what doors you hit. So now when you go back, you may want to go a different day or time to hopefully try to catch the people that may not have been home on the first day and time that you went. So now you're starting to increase your odds of hopefully trying to talk to everybody. And now if they don't answer the door, you definitely want to have your flyer because you want to leave that. I have found that people have called me back that I never spoke to, but they called me back because they said, "We saw your flyer on our door. I'm sorry we missed you, but we were thinking about possibly selling our home." So the fact that you put the flyer on the door shows them that you at least took the time to come up to their door to try to greet them. Even if you didn't knock on the door, if you're just passing the flyers out, I recommend you put them at the door. Now, what do you bring with you when you go door knocking? I would always have a little folder that I had my flyers and my business cards in, and then I had a pen and something to drink, like a little bottle of water. So why did I have the bottle of water? Because if I'm walking around and people see me with a water, for some reason it also made people feel at ease. Not sure the logic behind that one, but I felt like it worked. Then the folder, of course, your business cards and your flyer. You want to have those because you want to have things to give people. And then a pen, so if you meet someone, you want to make a note. I met Stephanie at 123 Street. She's definitely thinking about selling her home. I wrote down her phone number and her name and her address, so that way, I know that that's definitely one that has worked, so I know how to follow back up. You want to make sure you have something to take notes down, whether it's a pen and writing it, or if you take notes in your phone, something so that when you do speak with someone, you can take down their information. Because you may run into a situation where someone says, "I would love to talk to you, but right now is not a good time. Could you come back Thursday at 1 o'clock so we'll be here and have more time to talk to you?" Fantastic. I would love to do that. I will be here Thursday at 1 o'clock. You need to make sure you make that note, get their name, their address, and their phone number or whatever, so you can also confirm that appointment. But you want to make sure you have something to take the notes down so you can make any notations of what's going on. Because you also will run into a situation where a neighbor will say, "Well, I've never thought about selling. I love this neighborhood, but Steve down the way, he told me he's thinking about selling coming up in spring. You need to go talk to him." "Oh, I definitely will go do that. What is Steve's address?" Make sure you hit that house. Also, you want to have your list of all your withdrawals and expireds. So if you go talk to these neighbors and they are home and answer the door, here's what's going on in your neighborhood. I also noticed that you tried to sell your home and it didn't sell. Are you still thinking about selling? So that way when that door opens, you already know this is somebody that you're targeting for either a withdrawn or expired. So it works. Now, when I would go door knocking also, I usually always, because we'll talk about safety, I usually always went with another person. I would do one side of the street, they would do the other side of the street, and we would just hit it all the way down. I did that just because it made both of us feel a little bit more comfortable, instead of being out there by yourself, because there will be many situations, and it happened to me many times, where you knock on a door, they answer it, "Oh yes, I would love to talk about that. Why don't you come in? Let me show you my kitchen. Let me show you my backyard. Let me show you my house." So you have to make a judgment call. Are you going to do that? Well, when I knew I had someone else across the street, I would look at them and let them know I was going inside. That way, if I didn't come back in 15 minutes, at least they knew where I was. But if someone is wanting to invite you in and talk about it and show you their house, there's a decent chance that they may be serious about possibly selling. Now, sometimes people just want to show off. They may have just redone their kitchen and they want to get your opinion on it. They just may want to show it off. They may be lonely and just want to talk. But if they are any of those types and you acknowledge them and carry on with them and conversate with them, they may be the ones who will help pass your name around the neighborhood. Because a lot of times those people may know a lot of people in the neighborhood, may be the mayor of the neighborhood, and talk to all the neighbors. So if you get in good with them, they may help blast your name all over the neighborhood. "Oh, Spencer came to my door and I showed him my new renovated kitchen. He said he loved it, but he's looking, to help people sell their home. He knows everything about the neighborhood. If you thought about selling, you need to call him." And that was because you took the time to listen to this person, let them show you their kitchen, and acknowledge them. Things like that can also be very beneficial, because people, as a natural human, they want to be heard, they want to be appreciated, they want to be, talked to, and they want to engage. So if you do that, it can only help you. So be prepared for that if you decide to go door knocking. That it may be a situation where you talk to someone for 20, 30 minutes, but they may be ones that will help spread your name around the neighborhood. Do we have any questions? No? All right. Well, if you have any questions about this, you want to see examples of flyers, you want to maybe set up a time we can do role playing on how to knock on the door, what to say, how to handle objections, we can definitely do all those things to help you get out there. If you want to farm a neighborhood, let me know. I will help guide you and help you any way I can to get out there and hit the pavement, put those flyers in people's hands, get to meet people, and hopefully get some business. I hope this kind of helps you. I hope this sparks some interest and gets you out there, because coming into the spring, more and more people are going to be selling their house. So we want to get our name and our face out there so they call us and not anybody else. All right? Sound good? All right. Well, thank you. I hope you all enjoyed this, and leave us a comment. Have a great evening.